In Chapter 2, we're going to look at solving equations, and the first type of equations we're going to solve are equations that involve adding and subtracting. So some of the key terminology, an equation is a number sentence that says the expressions on either side of the equal signs represent the same number. So whenever you see an equal sign, that is an equation. If there is not an equal sign, not an equation, it's an expression. Any replacement for the variable that makes an equation true is called a solution. Equations with the same solutions are called equivalent equations, and the addition principle states that for any real numbers a, b, and c, a equals b is equivalent to a plus c equals b plus c. In other words, if you add the same thing to both sides, you maintain equivalency. So now let's look at determining whether or not a solution is given with these equations. So with these two equations, they're giving us an answer and they want to know, is this indeed a solution? So the way you find out if it's a solution or not is you substitute it into the equation for the variable. So we want to know, is 13 plus 19 equal, and that's the big question mark, to 22? Well, 13 plus 19 I know is not 22, so this is not a solution. In fact, you get 32 when you add those together. So now let's see, is 23 a solution in the second equation? So 23 minus 19, the big question is, does that equal 4? Well, 23 minus 19 is 4, so yes, 23 is a solution to the equation. Now let's actually solve some equations. So these, a lot of times you can look at these one-step equations and already know the answer without solving, which is great, and I would assume that you know that what something plus 8 equals 20, you could probably already tell me what that's going to be. However, when we get into larger equations, you need to be familiar with the steps and the processes for solving them. So we're learning the procedure for solving equations. So if we are solving this equation and learning the procedure, then what you're going to need to do is x plus 8 equals 20. We want to get x by itself. So right now there's that plus 8. So if I subtract 8, and what I do to one side I have to do to the other because we're dealing with an equation and we have to maintain the balance, so what you do to one side you must do to the other, then I'm going to get x plus 0, because x minus, or 8 minus 8 is 0, equals 12, and 0 plus anything is going to be that original number, so x plus 0 is x. So we're saying that our answer is x equals 12. You can check that by plugging in your answer, which is 12, into the original problem to see if you get an equivalent, or to see if you maintain that balance. So we're checking 12 plus 8, and we want to know, does that equal 20? Well, 12 plus 8 is 20, and that equals the 20 on the other side, so we know that we're correct because balance was maintained. So our answer of x equals 12. The nice thing about equations is you can always check your answer by plugging it back in to the original problem and making sure you're correct. So again, with this one down here on the bottom, we would just subtract 12 from both sides. And a lot of times I will draw a line down the middle where my equal sign is. And that's going to give me t. Now instead of plus 0, because 12 minus 12 is 0, I'm just going to leave it blank. So t equals 42 minus 12 is 30. And again, you can check your work. So plug in what you think the answer is, and as long as you maintain equality, then you know you're right. 30 plus 12 is 42, which equals the 42 on the other side. So our answer of t equals 30 is correct. So now let's look at these. We've got some with fractions, we've got some with decimals. So let's do one of these problems with decimals. I'm going to do this middle one. So here is my equal sign. We want to get y by itself, so I have a minus 1.4 or negative 1.4. So I'm going to have to add 1.4 to both sides. Those cancel, negative 1.4 and 1.4, or get you 0, so you can think of it as a 0. So all I have left is y equals, and negative 2.9 plus 1.4 is definitely going to be a negative, because the larger number is negative, and it's 1.5. So y equals negative 1.5. Now let's look at this one that has a fraction in it. I'm going to move it up here so we have a little bit more room to work with. Decimals, fractions, integers, it doesn't matter. You're still going to be doing the same process. So 6 2/3 equals 4 1/2 plus x. I like to draw my line. I'm going to get x by itself. So I have that positive 4 1/2. So I'm going to have to subtract 4 1/2 from both sides. And those zero out, and I'm left with x equals, and 6 2/3 minus 4 1/2 is going to be 2 1/6. Then you can just plug that subtraction into your calculator. No need to do it by hand since you're allowed to use a calculator. So x equals 2 1/6. And you can always plug that back in to make sure that you're right. 4 1/2 plus 2 1/6 should be 6 2/3 if you did it correctly.